Did you know that 24,000 people died in a single day because of forbidden relationships? After 40 years wandering in the wilderness, the Israelites finally camped at Shittim, ready to enter the Promised Land. But the prophet Balaam had given deadly advice to their enemies. He told the Moabites to send their most beautiful women to seduce the Israelite men. The plan worked perfectly. The men fell for the trap and joined pagan rituals at Baal Peor. God's anger burned fierce. He sent a plague that began killing thousands. Moses ordered the execution of guilty leaders, but the dying continued. Then, an Israelite man brazenly brought a Midianite woman into his tent during the crisis. Phinehas grabbed a spear and followed them inside. With one powerful thrust, he drove the weapon through both their bodies, pinning them together. The moment they died, the plague stopped instantly. The final count reached exactly 24,000 dead. Nearly an entire generation wiped out in 24 hours. Did you know the ground once literally opened its mouth and swallowed 250 men alive? In the wilderness of Sinai, a Levite named Korah grew jealous of his cousin Moses' authority. He gathered 250 prominent leaders and openly challenged Moses at the sacred tabernacle. The tension was unbearable as Moses desperately prayed for God to prove his chosen leadership. Then, Moses issued a chilling warning. Everyone must step back from the rebels' tents immediately. The ground beneath Korah's feet began to crack and split apart like enormous jaws. His eyes widened in terror as he realized what was happening. The earth opened wider, forming a massive chasm that swallowed him whole. Korah and his followers plunged into the abyss, their screams echoing from the depths below. The ground snapped shut over them forever, sealing their fate. At that exact moment, fire from heaven consumed the 250 men offering incense. Only their bronze censers remained as permanent reminders of rebellion's deadly cost. Did you know a man was thrown into a pit of starving lions and walked out completely unharmed? In ancient Babylon, Daniel held one of the highest positions in King Darius's government. Every day, he prayed 3 times to his God, kneeling by his window, facing Jerusalem. Jealous officials knew they couldn't find fault with his work, so they devised a cunning trap. They convinced the king to sign a law forbidding prayer to anyone except Darius for 30 days. When Daniel continued praying, they had their evidence. Darius realized too late he'd been manipulated, but Persian law couldn't be changed. That evening, Daniel was lowered into a den filled with hungry lions. The king sealed it with his royal ring and spent the night pacing, unable to eat or sleep. At dawn, Darius rushed to the pit and called out desperately. Daniel's calm voice answered from below, completely unharmed among the beasts. God's angel had shut the lions' mouths all night. The accusers and their families were immediately thrown to the same lions. They were torn apart before hitting the ground. Did you know a mother once watched her teenage son dying of thirst in the desert, unable to bear seeing his final moments? Hagar and her son Ishmael had once lived comfortably in Abraham's household. But Sarah grew jealous of Ishmael and demanded Abraham cast them out into the wilderness. With only a skin of water and some bread, they wandered into the scorching desert. Days passed. The water ran out completely. Ishmael grew weaker and weaker, his lips cracked and bleeding. Hagar watched helplessly as her son collapsed under a bush, gasping for breath. She couldn't bear to watch him die, so she walked away and sat down about a bowshot's distance. There, she wept bitterly, certain they would both perish. Suddenly, an angel called from heaven, telling her not to fear. God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water right there beside them. She frantically filled the skin and rushed to Ishmael's lips. He drank and lived, later becoming the father of 12 princes. Did you know that a widow once infiltrated an enemy camp and decapitated their most feared general? In ancient times, the Assyrian army surrounded the city of Bethulia, cutting off their water supply. The people were dying of thirst, ready to surrender within days. But a beautiful widow named Judith had a dangerous plan. She dressed in her finest clothes and walked straight into the heavily guarded enemy camp. She claimed to have information about her city's defenses, and the General Holofernes believed her. For 3 days, she gained his trust, sharing meals and conversations. On the 4th night, Holofernes threw a banquet and drank heavily. When he dismissed all his guards, Judith saw her chance. She took his own sword from beside his bed and struck his neck twice. The blade cut clean through, severing his head completely. She placed the head in her food bag and calmly walked back to Bethulia. When the Assyrian army discovered their headless commander, they fled in terror. One woman's courage had saved an entire city. Did you know that one king ordered the murder of every baby boy in an entire town just to kill one child? In 4 BC, King Herod ruled Judea with paranoid cruelty, obsessed with protecting his throne. When wise men arrived asking about a newborn king in Bethlehem, Herod's fear turned deadly. He issued a chilling decree: every male child under 2 years old in Bethlehem must die. Roman soldiers marched into the peaceful town at dawn, going house to house with cold efficiency. Mothers realized what was happening and tried desperately to hide their babies. But there was nowhere to run. Soldiers ripped infants from their mothers' arms, showing no mercy. The sound of wailing filled the streets as Herod's men carried out their orders. In one night, an entire generation was wiped out. The massacre fulfilled the prophet Jeremiah's words about Rachel weeping for her children. Bethlehem never recovered from that horror. The survivors carried the trauma forever, and this brutal act became one of the first stories of persecution in early Christianity. Did you know one man killed 1,000 soldiers using nothing but an animal's jawbone? In ancient times, the Philistines surrounded a single Hebrew warrior named Samson on a hilltop called Lehi. 1,000 armed soldiers against one man. They thought it would be easy. But Samson possessed supernatural strength that defied all logic. He grabbed a fresh donkey's jawbone from the ground and charged into their ranks. The first swing crushed 3 skulls instantly. The Philistines laughed, thinking it was luck. But then bodies started dropping everywhere. 20, 50, 100 men fell. Panic spread through their army as they realized their swords couldn't pierce his skin. The jawbone became a blur of death, shattering bones and splitting heads open. Blood soaked the ground as corpses piled higher around him. Commanders screamed orders, but their men were too terrified to fight. After hours of slaughter, Samson stood alone among a mountain of bodies, exhausted. The jawbone finally cracked and broke from overuse. The Philistines never again sent small armies against the Hebrews.